to the fightingest little judge this state or the United States has ever known, George C. Wallace. How about let's hear it for him?
Listening to him talk sometime, I've almost gotten the idea that he originated the doctrine of segregation in the South and in Alabama. You'd think that he was the original segregationist, that there wasn't anybody else in the world that believed in segregation except him. Well, I want you to know that I don't say that I've got the pat answer to anything, and I recognize the fact that he believes in segregation, and I want you to know that there's not anybody in this state that believes in segregation any more firmly than Ron DeGraff and Reed. But that's not really the issue in this campaign. My friends, the issue is how best to preserve segregation in Alabama. The issue in this campaign is which one of these men really have got a sound, sensible approach to the problem of segregation. If you ever stop really to listen to what he's been saying during this campaign, what constructive thought, what constructive act has he contributed during his entire public career to preserve segregation in Alabama?
My fellow Alabamians, I am very humble and grateful for the fact that you have elected me your 48th governor, and I'll be inaugurated on January the 14th of next year. I still stand on the platform that I ran on in the primaries and also in the general election. I will, with your help, stand up for Alabama. I would like to say here that the inaugural festivities will be the 14th of January, and all of you are invited to attend them. And I hope that you will be present with us. With divine guidance, I hope to make you a good governor. Again, let me thank you for having manifested the confidence in me that you have by electing me to serve as your governor for the next 4 years. Program that I have talked about, textbooks for children to the 1st to the 12th grade, matter of increasing teachers' salaries and matter of increasing appropriations to colleges and for maintenance and bus drivers. All of this, even including capital outlay, if the legislature so decides, can be financed without a single new tax. It will not take any additional taxation to provide this program. We are working on our budget, and our budget will reflect enough increase to provide a 10% increase for the school teachers of the state, to provide for the maintenance of the junior colleges and trade schools,
indispensable basis not only for the further social progress of the country, but for its socialistic and
Motion in writing by Mr. Malcolm Bethea. Motion in writing, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House do now resolve itself into a committee of the whole for the purpose of considering House Bill 26 now pending, so that there may be free from informal discussion by the members of the provisions of this bill, section by section and clause by clause.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the gentlemen of the House to vote no on this motion, if you will, gentlemen. I'm sure there'll be plenty of free debate and discussion of this bill right here today. And I can't see where any good would be served by going into the formation of a committee of the whole.
Ayes and noes called for it. Call sustained. Barely. Those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. 16 ayes and 85 noes. The motion defeated.
If the bond market was as such that they could sell more bonds than they needed at one particular time, anticipating the bond market being not so favorable at a later date, this would allow the state treasurer to invest surplus funds that were not needed at that particular time in interest-bearing government bonds or bank deposits.
This is sound fiscal policy, and I think the governor of the state of Alabama, the Honorable George C. Wallace, would welcome this amendment. And I ask that you vote for it. I move the passage of this amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Marion.
Mr. Speaker, gentlemen of the House, I'd like to move to lay the amendment on the table. We have gone to great extent to clear this bill with the financial attorneys, and it's in good ears. I'd appreciate you voting against this amendment by voting aye on the motion to table.
Clerk will unlock the machine and members vote. All the members voted. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote.
The interstate monies are 90-10 monies. Certainly we can ill afford to lose them. The people of Alabama would not want to do this. In addition to these matching monies, some approximately $20 million in monies are proposed for the county systems, approximately the same figure being proposed for city streets. There seems to be solid agreement on the soundness of the issuance of these bonds.
The governor said so. Floor leaders have said so. The people who have appeared in support of it have said so. Well, why in the world won't we put it in the bill? Why not? It's something that would make it more palatable to those members of the Senate that presently oppose it.
We are authorized to say this, and this concerned me. On this type of revenue warrant or bond, we now have an A rating for the state of Alabama. Governor Wallace has stated that he will not borrow 1 red cent if we lose our A rating, that these warrants will be issued only with the condition that we maintain our A rating.
I am aware of the fact that even though the amendment provides that the money shall be used for federal matching, that is no guarantee, or rather that would not result in an inability to have complete 100% grants to counties and to cities. For when this bond issue money is placed in the Highway Department, it would release state funds which might be used in a 100% grant for the counties and for the cities. I do not believe that this amendment would cut off the county or municipal program which the administration desires. But it does discharge our responsibility, and it does show a cooperation to the extent of going along with the proposal of the administration, that at least all federal aid that will be available for the highway construction will be matched.
Through the action of the legislature at this special session and through subsequent action over the next 4 years, this administration, which is your administration and my administration, desires to raise support for Alabama and education in Alabama to a competitive level both in the South and in the nation. We hope to make certain Alabama maintains this position in the years ahead through an expanded program of industrial development that will increase the prosperity of the state and assure the continued support needed for quality education. We have found that we can build highways, seaports, hydroelectric dams, airports, regardless of the cost. Apparently, we've decided we can even afford to put a man on the moon, regardless of the cost. It's high time, and I know you agree with me, that we decide in Alabama that we can afford to give our children the best education available. We are equal to the task. Working together, we can find the support necessary to build a foundation on which we can build a school system second to none in this country. Many possible solutions will be proposed during this session. I hope you will give each the fullest consideration. From the hearings and discussions to which you will engage will emerge the proper path for us to follow. At the appropriate time, after full discussion, the executive branch will, in cooperation with legislative leaders and educational leaders, make specific recommendations as to the appropriate sources of revenue necessary to begin the breakthrough which we have pledged to education.
But gentlemen, what we're getting at now, the introduction of this insurance bill and others of that nature, it seems, are in order. They are very lengthy. The introduction of those bills can pack this journal where it will take days and days of reading before we can ever get down to as much as committee reports from the Ways and Means Committee. If this continues, there's very little excuse for the Ways and Means Committee to meet anymore, because the reports cannot be possibly received in this House before May.
What we need to do is to dispose of this bill until after we have really and truly tended to the educational needs of our state. Our state needs the money to have better schools, to keep our teachers from leaving the state, and we all really and truly are guilty if we are trying to put this bill in front of the bill, which we should be considering to provide money for our schools that are already running and need this revenue.
State means any state, district, territory, commonwealth, station of the United States of America. Section 8, authorized insurer defined. Authorized insurer is one duly authorized by a sitting certificate authority.
Question on the motion of the gentleman from Jefferson to carry House Bill 90 over 2 legislative days without losing its place on the calendar. The ayes and noes called for it. 42 ayes and 61 noes, and the House refuses to carry the bill over 2 legislative days. Question on the passage of House Bill 90.
You want to do something about trade school training and junior college training, you can have the money to do it with. I hope that you don't choose to go the way of 5 trade schools and 5 junior colleges, but I hope that you will see your way clear to accept the program that I have outlined and explained to you, and that has been explained to you through the news.
Should be convened. Now, therefore, I, George C. Wallace, as Governor of Alabama, under the authority vested in me by the Constitution of Alabama, do hereby convene the legislature at the seat of government in the city of Montgomery at 6:30 p.m. the 16th day in the February 1965 in special session, and specifically designate the following matter.
The Governor is here tonight for the purpose of addressing this joint session. And if the Governor is without the chamber, will he please come into the House chamber? Governor Wallace.
straight. In 1963, you, the members of this legislature, responded magnificently and provided the dramatic breakthrough in education our children have needed since Alabama became a state. And I appear tonight before you with one plea. Let's follow through. Also, we are advocating my administration, and I believe that the overwhelming majority of you will support the matter of state-owned textbooks. Yes, the people need to know this early in this year, and those in education need to know this early in the year as to what we propose and will do, not only in the matter of textbooks and teacher salaries and increase to colleges, but the matter of capital outlay also. I make no recommendation tonight on that matter, but I do say that we do have capital outlay needs in our own state, and I do know with the surge of new industry coming to our state that every single penny and dollar that we place in education, of course, is going to mean that we will acquire that much more industry to sustain not only this educational program, but future programs. To those who are here tonight in this legislature, and it is your administration, let me say that I have traveled the length and breadth of our in this session. To those who have said, and said in good faith, that the matter of textbooks provided by the state is socialism, let me say this to you tonight. I suppose that from existing taxes to provide every single item of this education enhancement that will be presented to you. The matter of a 10% increase for school teacher salaries, the matter of an increase for school administration, the matter of textbooks, the matter of an additional 20% increase to the colleges of Alabama, the running of the trade schools and the junior colleges, and every other aspect of this program. And I want to emphasize this to the people of this state, that every single phase and aspect of this program can be passed at this session and projected for many years to come without any additional taxation. This is a soundly conceived program, and all needs will be met. We are, of course, providing for an additional close to 1,000 additional school teachers for the system, which, when this is enacted into law, will mean that this administration, you, the members of this legislative assembly, will have provided 3,000 additional teacher units for the children of Alabama. Yes, we have a surplus now, an unappropriated balance in the Educational Trust Fund, and let me say, you were wise, this administration was wise in the last session to have made a conservative estimate of the revenues. And as a result of this conservative estimate, we have this surplus in our treasury at the present time. Therefore, the program presented to you is based on the same identical conservative estimates, and if this program is enacted into law, the next administration themselves will find several $1 million balance left in the Educational Trust Fund when they take office. And I think, of course, this is a compliment to the legislature of the state and also to just announced a multi-million-dollar program for industry in the Tennessee Valley. And I'm proud to say that last year, Alabama led the nation, led the South, rather. We will lead the nation one of these days, but we led the South in the amount of new industrial development for our state. $406 million of new expanded industry was the largest of any state in our own region. And in 1963, we were number 2 in the South, like this law. And I don't think very few people in this state do like this law. No one has ever countenanced or called for any disobedience of any law, because we are going to work in this state to try to amend and modify legislation of this sort. But the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare has sent out a bunch of compliance forms to all the boards of education in Alabama. They have sent out, for the first time maybe in the history of our country, compliance forms to be signed by every agency that is the recipient of any so-called federal funds. My friends, we today see an example of federal cannibalism. We now see a bureaucratic department of the federal government that even goes beyond that which the Congress authorized in the passage of the so-called Civil Rights Act. We see a bureau that has run completely wild in setting regulations and saying that they will cut the funds off from the schools in this state unless they are signed, and it has been said by March 3rd or 4th, and I have on good authority tonight
from another state, from officials high in the administration of another state, that the March 3rd deadline is not the case. That's something that has been arbitrarily set. And in talking with Dr. Austin Meadows tonight, the Superintendent of Education, he said, yes, you can make that statement, and I'll acquiesce in it, that of course, that is not the deadline for signing on the matter of so-called compliance. But I want to commend the Bessemer Board of Education, the City Board of Education, for having talked this matter over among themselves, have asked me to help in helping to provide legal counsel, and they are going to file a suit in the immediate future to test the constitutionality of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, requiring the signing of a multiplicity of forms and regulations of which they don't even place in the form. And the signing of this form, in effect, says that we pledge to abide by every regulation enacted in the future. It's something that's repugnant to the American system. Never before in the history of our country has it been required that you sign in advance that you will obey a law. When the communists were told that they must sign that they did not belong to the Communist Party or advocate the overthrow of the government by force of violence in order to teach school, for instance, they said, we will not sign. And the Supreme Court says it's a vague and indefinite requirement to make them sign. So I am happy to see the Bessemer Board.
Governor Wallace, on behalf of the members of the House and of the Senate and of all those assembled here tonight, may I commend you on your stirring and challenging speech. This is the 5th time that you have called us into extraordinary session during your administration. The 4 previous special sessions resulted in much constructive legislation for the good of all the people of Alabama. And I feel sure that this administration
I am going to call you into special session to consider the problems of education and the problems of the Highway Department, and also the problem that concerns us in the effort of those who do not care anything about us, who would destroy our social and educational order if we but allowed them to do so. This interim committee, when it has concluded its studies, I will call you into special session for these purposes. And I hope that you will set up an interim committee made up of the membership of the Finance and Taxation Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, and also the announced leadership of the House and the Senate. I know you realize that the appropriation for the legislature to meet during this year is less than it has been in previous years, and therefore we must be conscious of that. And that is the reason that the administration had thought that other interim committees should wait until we had a chance to study the financial picture.
My prayer shall be that all Alabamians shall prosper in the next 4 years. I'll give you 4 years of honest government, sober government, progressive government, and government dedicated to the traditions and customs of the peoples of this state. We can and will live in harmony. The state of Alabama, I deem it to be my solemn obligation and duty.
Governor is now speaking.
Representing the rights and sovereignty of this state and its people. The unwelcome, unwanted, unwarranted, and force-induced intrusion upon the campus of the University of Alabama
today of the might of the central government offers frightful example of the oppression of the rights, privileges, and sovereignty of this state by officers of the federal government. This intrusion results solely from force or threat of force, undignified by any reasonable application of the principle of law, reason, and justice. It is important that the people of this state and nation understand that this action is in violation of rights reserved to the state by the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Alabama. While some few may applaud these acts, millions of Americans will gaze in sorrow upon the situation existing at this great institution of learning. Only the Congress can make the law of the United States.
Not here.
State no statutory authority can be cited to the people of this country, which authorizes the central government to ignore the sovereignty of this state in an attempt to subordinate the rights of Alabama and millions of Americans. There has been no legislative action by Congress justifying this intrusion. When the Constitution of the United States was enacted, a government was formed upon the premise that people as individuals are endowed with the rights of life, liberty, and property, and with the right of local self-government. The people and their local self-government formed a central government and conferred upon it certain and limited powers. All other powers were reserved to the states and the people. Strong local government is the foundation of our system and must be continually guarded and maintained. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads as follows. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, not prohibited by any of the states, are reserved to the states respectively of the people. This amendment sustains the right of self-determination and grants the state of Alabama the right to enforce its laws and regulate its internal affairs. This nation was never meant to be a unit of one, but a united of the many. That is the exact reason our freedom-loving forefathers established the states, so as to divide the rights and powers among the many states, ensuring that no central power could gain master government control. There can be no submission to the theory that the central government is anything but a servant of the people. We are God-fearing people, not government-fearing people, which I assert to the people of Alabama by my presence here today. Again, I state, this is the exercise of the heritage of freedom and liberty under the law, coupled with responsible government. Now, therefore, in consideration of the premises,
I don't know what the purpose of this show is. I am interested in the orders of these courts being enforced. That is my only responsibility here. I ask you once more, the choice is yours. There is no choice that the United States government has in this but to see that the lawful orders of this court are enforced. The consequences of your stand must rest with you. The choice is yours. I would ask you once again to responsibly step aside. If you do not, I'm going to assure you the orders of those courts will be enforced. Two students who simply seek an education on this campus are presently on the campus.
Ask him to
They have
step
a right
aside
to be here, protected by that
on the
law.
campus.
They have a right to register here. It's a simple problem, scarcely worth this kind of attention in my judgment. And those students will remain on this campus. They will register today. They will go to school tomorrow, and they will go to school.
Thank you, sir. Stay on campus. Go to school today?
From the outset, Governor, all of us have known the final chapter of this.
Says they will register today, go to school
I ask you
tomorrow.
once again to consider the consequences of your statement, and I'll ask you once again to give it the assurance to step aside and peacefully reserve